This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
"6:45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malavarachi, read by Soundit Avam. President Ranil Wickremesinghe meets with the World Bank chief. The president has talked with the president of South Korea on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. The Bangladesh speaker expresses hope that BIMSTEC and IORA will boost regional cooperation. The government gets tough on university ragging. The government plans to resume the construction of the country's road system, which was halted due to the economic crisis. In foreign news, China sends a top envoy to Russia for security talks. In sports, the Sri Lanka cricket picks the men's and women's squads to take part in the Asian Games. A meeting between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the World Bank President Ajay Banga took place yesterday at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the United Nations 2023 SDG Summit, a high-level two-day political forum on sustainable development which commenced yesterday under the auspices of the UN General Assembly. The Sri Lankan leader is in the United States to attend the 78th session of the UNGA themed Rebuilding Trust and Reigniting Global Solidarity, Accelerating Action on the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals towards Peace, Prosperity, Progress and Sustainability for All, taking place from September 18th to the 21st. Meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has met President of South Korea, Yoon Suk-yeol, on the sideline of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The President's media division said President Wickremesinghe and the South Korean President had a cordial meeting discussing matters of mutual interest to both nations. The Speaker of the Bangladesh Parliament, Shirin Shamin Chowdhury, said the upcoming BIMSTEC and IORA meetings will boost cooperation between the countries in the region. She referred to close cooperation between Bangladesh and Sri Lanka in international forums. She also emphasized the need for further expansion of people-to-people ties between the two countries. The Speaker said this when she called on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at Temple Trees yesterday. She said Sri Lanka has tremendous potential to expand tourism, as she noticed that the required infrastructure is in place already. The Prime Minister discussed ways and means to further develop links between the parliaments of both countries and to implement a new program to exchange the experiences of the parliamentary activities of the two countries. The Bangladesh Speaker said such cooperation could strengthen the best democratic parliamentary practices in the two countries. Also at the meeting, the Prime Minister said cooperation in pharmaceutical drugs manufacturing in Sri Lanka, as Bangladesh has expertise in the field. The State Minister for Higher Education, Suren Raghavan, said the government is contemplating tough measures, including new legislation to curb ragging at universities and other higher education institutes. At the media conference held at the Government Information Department, the State Minister stated that ragging is spreading in universities and 36 complaints of ragging have been reported within the last 12 months. He said that a National Anti-Ragging Committee has been appointed for this purpose. This committee includes a representative of the President, a representative of the Prime Minister, a representative of the Higher Education Minister, a representative of the University Grants Commission, a representative of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission, a representative of the Vice Chancellors Association, and a representative of the Sri Lanka Police. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The President's senior advisor on national security and Chief of Staff Sagala Ratnayake has called upon the relevant officials to furnish a comprehensive report on the country's water resources within the 2 weeks. This report is expected to encompass a detailed assessment of the current safety conditions of all reservoirs, lakes, dams and water-carrying tunnels across the island. Additionally, it is expected to outline the necessary repair work required and provide an estimation of associated costs. Mr. Ratnayake emphasized the urgency of this report, underlining the need for prompt action to address any potential safety concerns. The report's ultimate aim is to facilitate informed decision-making at the highest levels of government. The directive was delivered during a high-level meeting convened at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday. The State Minister of Highways, Siripala Gamlath, announced the government's plan to resume the construction of Sri Lanka's road system, which was halted due to the economic crisis. During a news conference at the Presidential Media Centre on the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country yesterday, the State Minister of Highways said the funding will be allocated in the upcoming budget, ensuring swift completion and delivery to the public. Expressing his views further, he said, when he took office as State Minister, most of the country's highway projects had come to a standstill, with significant outstanding payments to contractors totaling approximately 180 billion rupees, equivalent to less than a year's road project budget. They have already disbursed 151 billion rupees, with 29 billion rupees left to pay, encouraging some contractors to restart projects. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
The United States and Sri Lanka marked the 14th Trade and Investment Framework Agreement Council meeting in Colombo yesterday, solidifying their commitment to enhancing trade and investment relations. The technical-level meeting, co-chaired by K.J. Veerasinghe of the Government of Sri Lanka and Brendan Lynch, acting Assistant United States Trade Representative for South and Central Asia, witnessed productive discussions on a wide range of crucial issues. The U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, and Chandani Vijayawardena, acting Secretary to the President, set the tone with their opening comments, acknowledging the 75th anniversary of bilateral relations between the two nations. That came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
On to Watchlight. The Colombo coroner, attorney at law Resha Samarveera, said yesterday, out of the 1,500 autopsies conducted by the Colombo National Hospital's coroner's court within the last 3 months, 100 people under the age of 50 have died due to heart attacks and diabetes. She also said that 200 deaths related to people in the age group of 50 to 60 years were due to heart attacks and diabetes. She said that 1/3 of the sudden deaths that occurred during the relevant period were due to heart attacks, and the trend of young people dying due to heart attacks is increasing. She said that according to the information of the family members of the deceased, most of these people were used to fast foods and some of them were away from home for work and education. That came to you in Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
It's the power to live life your way. The power to be a trendsetter. Power to you with digital banking from Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Making headlines this morning, China sends top envoy Wang Yi to Russia for security talks. Peru coach crash, 24 dead as bus falls into ravine. Rare dinosaur berry up for sale at Paris auction. China's top diplomat Wang Yi is visiting Russia for security talks as Moscow seeks continued support for its war on Ukraine. A close ally of Moscow, Beijing is accused of supporting Russia indirectly during the war, which it denies. His visit comes after Vladimir Putin met North Korea's Kim Jong-un amid U.S. fears they could strike an arms deal. Mr. Wang's trip would also lay the ground for Mr. Putin to make a landmark visit to Beijing soon. Earlier this month, Mr. Putin said he expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping, but did not say when. He has not travelled abroad since the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him in March over war crimes in Ukraine. Mr. Putin last ventured onto foreign soil in December 22 when he visited Belarus and Kyrgyzstan. At least 24 people have been killed and 21 injured in a coach crash in Peru. The intercity coach was travelling overnight in the Andes Mountains between the cities of Huancayo and Huanta when it fell into a 200-meter deep ravine. Coach crashes are common in Peru, especially at night and on mountain highways. Official figures suggest that more than 3,300 people died in traffic accidents in the Andean country in 2022. An almost complete dinosaur skeleton will be sold at an auction in Paris next month. The 150-million-year-old was discovered in the 1990s in Wyoming in the United States. It was named Barry after Barry James, who found it. Experts say the skeleton is extremely well preserved. It is expected to fetch up to $1.2 million at an auction on the 20th of October. Dating back to the late Jurassic period, Barry measures 2.1 meters tall and 5 meters long. Back to the headlines of the world news. China sends top envoy to Russia for security talks. Peru coach crash, 24 dead as bus falls into ravine. Rare dinosaur berry up for sale at Paris auction. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
This message is for all the kids between the ages of 4 and 16 who love to draw. Commercial Bank's Arunalu Sittam is back once again. This time, the competition is also open to Sri Lankan kids currently living abroad. First, second and third place prizes will be awarded along with special merit and merit certificates. For more information, visit the Commercial Bank website. We have so many prizes to be won.
Development News.
The Agriculture Ministry has spent 2,200 million rupees for the Youth Agricultural Entrepreneurship Village program within a period of 2 months. The development of the Nugagalea village as a Youth Agri-Entrepreneurship Village began yesterday under the program of developing 11 villages in the island as Youth Agri-Entrepreneurship Villages by the Agriculture Ministry. Repairing of the surrounding tank system also started, and steps are taken to provide many benefits to the farmers. That came to you in development news. And on to sports. The Sri Lanka Cricket SLC Selection Committee has picked the men's and women's squads to take part in the Asian Games 2023. Accordingly, the Sri Lankan's men's A team will be led by Sahan Arachige, while skipper Chamari Atapattu will continue to lead the women's team. The 19th edition of the Asian Games will be held in Hangzhou, China, from September 23rd to October 8th. The 19th edition of the Asian Games will take place from September 23rd to October 8th, 2023. This event will feature both men's and women's T20 cricket encounters, into which top-seeded teams like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh enter directly into the quarter-finals, while 11 other teams will compete in the group stage and the winners will join the top 4 in the quarter-finals. That came to you in sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Go ekatiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu veena habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The government is mulling over the liquidation of certain institutions under its program for restructuring state-owned enterprises, a top source said. The government has decided to restructure SOEs, which are commercially oriented in accordance with the program of the International Monetary Fund. In this process, some SOEs have been identified to be redundant at the moment. As such, they will be liquidated, and came to you in business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekatiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu veena habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. The central bank sold $467 million to commercial banks in August this year and bought $296.5 million, indicating net sales of $170.5 million in the month, official data shows. August is the third month transactions with banks were negative. In June, net interventions were 13.5 million negative, and in July, net interventions were 12.5 million negative. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western and Sabragamo provinces and in the Gaul and Matara districts. Several spells of showers will occur at times in the northwestern province and in the Kandy, Nuwara and Hambantota districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at several places elsewhere over the island during the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa and Uva provinces and in the Galle, Matara, Ampara and Batticaloa districts. Back to the headlines of the news broadcast to conclude. President Ranil Wickremesinghe meets with the World Bank chief. The President has talks with the President of South Korea on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. The Bangladesh Speaker expresses hope that BIMSTEC and IORA will boost regional cooperation. The government gets tough on university ragging. The government plans to resume the construction of the country's road system, which was halted due to the economic crisis. China sends a top envoy to Russia for security talks. Sri Lanka cricket picks the men's and women's squads to take part in the Asian Games. That concludes this morning's news broadcast.